I'm absolutely delighted to be joined by my friend Ivan from DoD Solution. You may have seen him on the channel before in shorter videos. This is the first interview we've done, and we're going to be talking about drone development, very pertinent, of course, because we're here for Brave One, and DoD Solution had a stand there at one of the world's largest military technical sort of events and conferences, and of course drones featured extremely prominently. I think maybe the majority of companies there are developing the drone ecosystem. But I'll let Ivan explain himself what he's doing, what his colleagues are doing, and how they're making an extraordinary contribution towards Ukrainian victory. Ivan, welcome.
Pleased to see you, Jonathan. Thank you very much for having me. So as you mentioned yourself, we've been on the channel, but mostly for our volunteering project. Whereas we were going to the front line and we were asking questions to the soldiers like, what do you guys need? What is the demand? What do you guys need to win the war? And at the beginning it was cars, drones, etc. But at some point we've received a very direct request for technology. We need certain technology solutions to counter some of the challenges that we have. And in 2023, we've decided we're gonna found a technology company that will focus on technology solutions for the front line. Particularly, there were quite a lot of FPV kamikaze drones on the Ukrainian side, and Russians are very strong with EWs. They jam the signal, they jam the drones, and our soldiers couldn't hit the targets because they were simply jammed and downed. So what we came up with was actually a suggestion from the front line that we need to work on last mile solution. And what that means is you basically fly in a drone, you see the target visually, it can be as far as up to 1 kilometer. You lock the target, and then once you approach in the target, it doesn't matter if the signal is jammed, if the picture is away, right? If you don't have the video, the drone is gonna hit the target no matter what. This was basically the beginning, but overall DoD Solution is a company that makes autonomy for drones, autonomy solutions for drones, and we have a vision for full autonomy for the drones, and last mile solution is basically just the beginning. We are already adding some of the object detection, object recognition technology into it, which becomes the second level of autonomy, where pilot does not have to choose the target. AI suggests which targets to hit, and all the pilot has to do is say, okay, and the drone is going to do the job. We've started with this EW issue as basically the reason why we've developed the last mile. But the problem, I just returned from the front line 5 days ago. The problem for a higher level commanders is not to hit one target. The problem for them is to have high quality drone operators, because you can have an operator that is 100% good and AI that is 95% good. But if you multiply that by number of pilots you have, out of 10 you have 2 or 3 very good pilots, the rest can be so-so. When you have AI replacing the human factor, you can overall increase the hit rate. And that's where we're going. We want to remove the human factor out of the equation. So then when we see the targets, no matter what operator is using the drone, the result and the outcome is going to be the same. We'll hit the target. And that's with the power of AI, with the power of autonomy solutions for drones.
And that essentially will allow maybe one operator to handle more drones at one time. And that's another one of these logistical challenges where the AI has to have an extraordinary level actually of targeting precision to not have to have human input against multiple targets.
Exactly. The eventual goal, and there are a lot of talks about the swarms technology. There's one of the companies, Swarmer, and they recently raised a pretty good capital. We're already in a conversation with them to work together on the solutions that they're building. They basically are, I would say, swarm driven, whereas we are AI autonomy driven. And if we work together, we can first make sure that drones communicate with each other, and then one operator can basically launch a bunch of drones, go into the what military calls area of interest, and then once you're there, and when your drones can detect targets, then they can lock on them, they can hit them. That's eventual goal. You're right, Jonathan.
Area of interest is such a bland phrase for something which has a lot of drama, of course, in reality. And we think of Ukraine as being the more innovative in the two sides of this war. And of course, that's true in many respects, and it's true for Ukrainian culture. The challenge, though, isn't it, is that Russia also has innovated. In fact, they were the first not to invent fiber optic, but to see the opportunity of what they could do if they scaled up sort of fiber optic and get around the jamming via electronic warfare.
That's right. Actually, there were some initiatives from the Ukrainian army about fiber optic back in 2023. The problem is that it's hard to convince, it's hard to sell certain ideas. And when it comes to Russia, they might be less innovative, but they are better at replicating. So if they find something that works well, they have their autocracy machine allows them to scale much faster than ourselves. And I would say the main difference between our approach and their approach is that we have more startups, we have more ideas generated, we have access to the West, we have access to investments from the West. So we can innovate, we can create. But when it comes to, okay, now that works, let's make 10,000 of them every month, we struggle, and Russia performs better, which is why they have things like Shaheds they used to have just a couple of them, then maybe a couple dozens. Now it can be hundreds of them technically every day, and we have to be prepared. And anti-Shahed solutions is also something that we're getting involved with, because we see huge requests from the drones companies that do interceptions. They basically build interceptor drones, but that's a very complex thing. It's much easier said than done. You have to have access to like radars, you have to know where to look for them, you have to get closer to them, you have to make sure that communication is done properly, and then at some point you still have the human factor which is controlling the drone to hit Shahed. And that's where it's actually very hard when you have a moving target at night, flying at very high speed, sometimes black color, so you have to use thermal cameras. It's a very difficult task, and I have to admit Russia has done an amazing job building them on scale, and as a result of that, in Lviv, not even in Lviv, in Poland, F-35s have to fly and down Shaheds just because how good they are. So we have to respect the strength of our enemy, and we have to also look for the countermeasures.
And I heard that the Shaheds that were sent into Poland actually were not the highest spec ones, because one, they don't want that technology necessarily to be unpacked by NATO partners, but two, they didn't carry munitions. They're a testing, exploratory kind of operation. But Russia's been able to innovate not just the speed and agility of the drones, but also they've also integrated certain tactics, such as flying high until you're practically over the target. Now, they could have learnt that perhaps from German tactics in World War II, which were sort of quite similar. But these interceptors sound like it's incredibly important, because the financial ratio of shooting down a few Shaheds with F-35s, with potentially missiles costing hundreds of thousands against a drone costing a few thousand, that just doesn't stack up. It's not sustainable. So how important is, to say, the drone interceptor program, not just for Ukraine's resilience, but for really creating a drone wall against what I think at least is going to be an increasing scale of an intensity of such attacks by Russia on the mainland of Europe?
It's absolutely vital. I think when you're using F-35s or F-16s to down things like Shahed, you are back in 2020 or 2021, whereas we live in 2025 and we are adapting everything that we do to 2025. West is not living in the current world in terms of military warfare, and it is absolutely vital to have countermeasures. Some of the things that Russians have downed, it was called Herbera. They used as a decoy. We actually have one of them in the office, brought by some of the units we work with, and they brought it to us as a souvenir half a year ago. We didn't know much about them, but now we see the same thing on the Polish news, and actually all over the news in the West. So yes, you're right. It's absolutely vital to see the countermeasures, which is why we're now working with one of the German companies that is working on anti-Shahed solutions. We had a meeting with a company from Netherlands that is about to work on anti-Shahed solutions, and with all of them, we're going to be helping them, sometimes with technology, sometimes with access to the military who can test them, sometimes with access to polygons. It doesn't matter. So if you're working on something related to it, you're related to defense, and you need a partner on the ground to help you with connections, technology, people, we are here, and that's actually the role of our company, to act as a local partner on the ground in our fight.
Now, this is important for a number of reasons, isn't it? And of course, one of them is that Ukraine, unfortunately, is able to battle test these components in real-life situation. And whereas it sounds bad, Western countries should be leveraging that. They should be taking advantage of that experience to refine their technologies, but also the iteration cycle, the actual ecosystem, culture, process, however you want to call it, it is not really mapping very well to a standard Western military procurement process. Because once you've spec'd something out, you've got an order from government. Well, on those timescales, before you've even delivered a single drone, in Ukraine, those systems will be out of date. And if you've black boxed your technology, if you can't hack the hardware and software almost in real time, then that is just a piece of junk, no matter how much it costs or shiny it looks. So that's one problem. The other one, of course, is getting Chinese components out of supply chains. So how important is it working with people like you and your teams and drone tech companies in Ukraine to solve both those problems, understanding the process rather than just the productization, and of course being not dependent on China for key components?
Yeah, so answering the first question, Ukraine is doing a pretty good job at being agile and to change even when it comes to huge governmental orders. The way how it works right now in Ukraine, that the government can order 1 million drones, and by the time they arrive to the front line, certain things have to be changed. It's not that the supplier is bad, it's because the war is very dynamic. And for example, different frontline parts have different frequencies that the drones fly on, which means that the focus that brigades have to have is not on where do we get drones. It's rather how do we modernize them and how do we adapt them towards the needs that they have. And the way it works is the government gives them a bunch of drones, and they have their own little R&D center where they, with the help of maybe NGOs, maybe they have some budgets at the brigade level that they can allocate. They buy components and they upgrade them on the ground. And that way it seems it works pretty well when basically government supplies you with basic stuff and you upgrade it with some additional things. It's not perfect, but again, it's a war that we learn as we go. I think the West has the luxury of not worrying about that much, because whatever NATO countries are buying right now, anti-Shahed or whatever, most likely they're not gonna use it for until, I don't know. I hope they're never gonna use it, but if they need to, most of the stuff might not work exactly the way they want. Which is why it is extremely crucial for a company that produces drone solutions, rockets, or other stuff to be tested, to be used in the front line in Ukraine. And this is also one of the format that we work with an American company, where they provide their drones to us, and we connect them with the frontline guys who give them the feedback. There's even a program by Brave One called Test in Ukraine, where they provide this testing service to manufacturers. So whatever you guys built out there in the West, it has to be tested here in the real war. If it's not tested, maybe it's a bubble, maybe it's, I don't know for what reasons they're making it, it could be different. Coming to your second questions about Chinese component, it's also an important topic. I would say in Ukraine, we don't worry that much about it as NATO countries are, simply because a lot of components are still accessible, they're accessible on a large scale, and they're cheap. As long as they're accessible, we're gonna be buying them and we're gonna be using them. There are some drone manufacturers, for example, Viri, huge company, very successful, kudos to them. Oleksii, who is the leader of the company, he mentioned several times that we can go 100% localized and 100% go away from China, but it always comes with a cost. So Viri can localize it 100%, but it always comes with a cost. Basically, they can, like, tomorrow start doing everything Ukraine made, but it will mean that, you know, things can go 20% more expensive. As long as things are accessible, we're gonna be using them. With the Western paradigms, I think the approach is, let's not even get involved into Chinese components, because we are thinking long term, and we're gonna have things from Taiwan or from the United States, from Netherlands, straight away.
And just to remind the audience that if you're interested in drone tech, you really ought to be partnering with a Ukrainian company, not trying to develop a separate ecosystem, because what you're building may well be already redundant by the time it's scaled up. So Ivan knows the ecosystem, he knows people on the front, he knows how to work with government bodies as well, and bureaucracy and this kind of stuff, but crucially those connections on the front are absolutely vital and priceless. Also linking to the tech entrepreneurs and an extraordinary workforce that exists here in Lviv and in Kiev, in the main sort of tech hubs and centers. The last question here, because I know you and your colleagues have a huge amount to do. This innovation, of course, is driven by the need for victory, the need to drive the invaders out of your lands, but it also seems to be driven by two other things. One is the realization that actually it's very difficult to get people to join the infantry, and there is a challenge with that, but also that is not an easy life. It's brutal and tough, and it's up close in the fight. Not everyone is cut out for that. And out of a deep, deep concern for saving human life. There's a sanctity of life here. There's a sense of preciousness of life and talent in Ukraine, which you don't have on the Russian side. But that is also driving tech innovation so that people can fight. When I say at a distance, that makes it sound less heroic, which is not, because you're still in extreme danger. But the desire that, one Ukrainian drone pilot, can be responsible for an extremely high ratio of damage to Russians and preserve their talent and their life for future fights. That seems to be a driving force behind the innovation.
Yeah, absolutely. I think given this disproportional advantage, so when you can destroy like a $3 million tank with something for $300, using the innovation, using the technology approach, that's the thing that can win the war. We see that it's moving towards the approach where you're not using the drones against tanks anymore, you're using them against people. Because one of the things that Russia has a lot is people. They have a lot of people. And they have a lot of people who have alcohol problems, they have money problems, and they can simply buy them and send them to die here. Which means now innovation is required to somehow multiply the number of people of our side. And that's a good reference to what you mentioned, Jonathan, regarding swarm technology, where we don't have a luxury of having 20 pilots countering 20 Russian attackers. We have 1 to 10 or something like that, which is why technology side is an absolutely crucial, and which is why me and our company is heavily involved in that, because technology can make a difference. And we've seen it in several world wars where British broke Enigma, how crucial it was. In I think it was in the First World War, artillery came out as a game changer, also in second, tanks. So there's always something that has to come from the technology side to become the game changer. There's no silver bullet, but technology has a leverage.
And it's fantastic work you're doing here. And just a reminder, you would have seen earlier in the video the fundraiser for the 93rd. They're an extraordinarily effective unit, but without vehicles, it means that their effectiveness is limited. It also means that they are at a far higher probability of not being able to get casualties out from the front in a timely fashion. And what we want is for these guys to be given the tools they need to be as effective as possible to drive the invaders from their lands. So please do. You don't have to be into drone tech to help Ukraine. You could help source these vehicles, and it's incredibly powerful, and it's something you can do today to do your part for a Ukrainian victory. For today though, Ivan, thank you to you and your team for kindly showing us around, for doing the demonstration of the autonomous systems, and for everything you do, not just for Ukrainian freedom, but for all of Europe. And as you say, the drones over Poland, I think, emphasize what we knew, but what a lot of people are waking up to, that this is an assault upon freedom and upon Europe, upon the things that we value. And if we don't fight back, we lose them.
Thank you very much, Jonathan, for highlighting the importance of that. I'm glad to be here, and you guys all can make a difference, either when it comes to technology, or if you can help us physically bring the technology solution on the back of a truck, we'll need a truck. So that's why both things are important, and being active, you can actually make an influence in this war. So the things we are building is object detection, object recognition, and autonomous hit. So it starts with object detection. When we have a drone display. Mm-hmm. When we have a drone that is approaching the targets, so now fly. So the drone is flying around, it sees potential targets, and now if we want to lock the target, there you go. Now it locked the target, and that's it. Yeah, now it will hit it. Yeah, that was a different one. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. Now the blue one is tracked. Yeah, so now you see it's not releasing it. If you go back, so it keeps updating the image of it, so it knows what to look at. Basically, it can autonomously hit it right now.
And is this used for last mile? So do you require an operator to identify target, distinguish that it's military versus civilian, and then the last mile, the AI takes over? What's the operation?
Yeah, so the way can you activate the prepare mode? The use case, how this is going to be used, is that you have a bunch of potential targets, and for the operator, it's hard to, because it's on the move, it's hard to to point exactly on the target. That's why we use AI to assist us to basically have options. In the future, we will add an option to switch between potential targets. Right now, it chooses whichever is the closest, and now if you activate it, so now it shows it. That's it. Now it keeps it in the middle. It keeps updating the image, And once he activates it, actually autopilot is on. So when we actually fly it, and we'll show you the video, once it's activated, it starts flying into the target.
So if one of the vehicles is taking evasive maneuvers, it may well switch target to the one that is within easy reach.
As long as it is, no, it's because he moved it away from the objective.
It's hard to know without looking at display what we're trying.
Yeah, now let's do it again. Okay, now put the target. Okay, now the small blue one. Yeah, so now it's there, and now if I... Yeah. Yeah, it's purple, right? Ah, okay. Try to, can you maybe move it? Can you activate the search mode? Yeah. Let's do, for example, let's try to show you on the move. So like you said about maneuver. Let's look for this one. So can you try to activate the search mode? Okay. Yeah, and now we need to lock it. I can hold it? Yeah. So for example, you fly towards the target. Hold on, not that one. Yeah, how do we... lock it. There you go. So now the target is locked, as you can see. And if you move it, sort of it tries to keep it in the middle, and it's not gonna let it go. So as long as it is within the objective, you see that? So if I move it to different sides, it keeps updating it. So it doesn't release. It's just gonna, the way how it's gonna perform, it's just gonna chase it and hit it. So yeah, you see we move into different directions. Like I move to different sides. Oh, there you go, yeah. Here we move the computer. That's why it's still, we still need to work a bit more on it. Yeah, but other than that, what if I turn back to this one? Can you activate the search mode? Search and lock. Search and lock. Yeah, there you go. Yeah, this is basically the second level of autonomy. We finished it about a week ago, but of course this is still a demonstration level. To send it to the front line, we need to work on a few other things. We started with autopiloting. Autopiloting works pretty good. But with regards to locking, that's basically, in an ideal world, it has not to move, but for now you see I do different maneuvers that it keeps it. If I sort of offer different things, it can switch. Yeah, I guess it perceives it as a sort of similar. But it doesn't switch to the backpack, it doesn't switch to the box, it still keeps whatever it was trained on, basically. Yeah.
So you might be familiar with this place. This is actually, I think, the third time we've been here to see these incredible vehicles being launched. These are going on the way to the front later. They're going to save lives, and they're going to help to push Russians out of sovereign Ukrainian territory. This is absolutely critical. But for me, the attractive bit is saving lives, and it's become increasingly difficult to get equipment, munitions, and various stuff that's required to the front, and of course to get wounded people out. So these vehicles are literally lifesavers, and they are enabling the logistics that help to push back the Russian imperial project, which is protecting Europe. It's the wall that is protecting Europe from Russian aggression. This is the man who makes it all happen. Ivan, thank you.
Pleased to see you, Jonathan, and
Good
thank you for coming here. And we wanted just to, this is actually the thing that we have every single Friday, every single week. This time it's 5 vehicles, all of them armored, and we try to keep the quality high. You see that most of these cars are Toyota Hilux. These are I think you don't need to explain more about what's Toyota, what's Hilux.
A lot of them farm vehicles, aren't they? A lot of farm vehicles from the UK, or vehicles that have had a good productive life, but they're going to have a second life out here in Ukraine.
That's a good fate, how they would like to die, protecting democracy. And we have several ongoing campaigns, and one of them is Autumn Harvest. Harvest here is a symbol that we harvest trucks that we bring to the soldiers, because right now it's hard to harvest wheat and other grains in Ukraine. So we harvest trucks to liberate our country to be able to harvest grain.
And let's remind people, we actually have a fundraiser. We're part of this fundraiser. We want to fund 2 of these, and it's for an absolutely incredible brigade, the 93rd. There's a video, which you'll see in a minute, where you'll see their faces. Black Raven, absolutely awesome. They're one of the most competent, they're one of the most effective units that have been sort of formed within the Ukrainian army. And it is these effective units where I think their lives, I mean, every life is precious, but where you have an effective brigade, it feels more precious because they're having a greater impact in pushing back Russia, and then their learnings hopefully get transitioned to other brigades that are less effective. So these lives need to be saved and supported. Could you say a few words?
Actually, yeah, additionally, for everyone who contributes with €100 or more, we're giving some pins, like a drone, basically the thing that the 93rd are using. We call it the Innovator, as a symbol of Ukrainians' ingenuity and innovation. And also we have this autumn harvest patch that is based on the Ukrainian lion, that is like also a symbol of Lviv. But uniquely for this channel, the 93rd Brigade Black Raven are sending us 20 patches exactly, and Jonathan will show you later. Like, you cannot buy them anywhere, and I have a big collection of patches myself, and this is in top 3 of my favorites, maybe even number 1.
It's my top one. I have fewer patches, but it is already my my number 1 patch. It
feels good.
Beautifully
designed. Actually, that soldier who I'm in touch with, his call sign is Ed. He said, actually, I like them so much, I don't want to send them to you, but I will, because we need trucks.
Yeah.
Good, folks.
They've got a good flag as well, but you know, we'll put an image of that on because that's awesome. No, please do help. This is absolutely critical. These guys are actually saving our lives and helping to save European democracy as well as their own democracy. So please do what you can.
Бажаємо міцного здоров'я. Ми бійці батальйону безпілотних систем Black Raven 93-ї бригади Холодний Яр виконуємо бойове завдання на Константинівському напрямку в Донецькій області. Для їх успішного виконання наш підрозділ має потребу в пікапах для виїзду особового складу на позиції, евакуації, своєчасного підвозу боєприпасів, дронів та обладнання в район ведення бойових дій. Звертаємося до YouTube-спільноти Silicon Curtain та Джонатана особисто з проханням допомогти підтримати збір, а також до Car for Ukraine та Бандера Мобіль з проханням допомогти з купівлею, підготовкою та доставкою авто на фронт. Слава Україні!
Героям слава!